Have you ever been accused of something so horrible, so unthinkable, that it felt like your entire world was crumbling around you, and the person pointing the finger was someone you loved more than life itself? That's exactly what happened to me when my older sister, the one person I thought would always have my back, looked me dead in the eye and blamed me for the collapse of her marriage, claiming I was the reason her husband walked out. I'm talking about a lie so vicious it didn't just break my heart. It shattered my sense of family, trust, and even who I thought I was. This isn't just a story about a family feud. It's a raw, messy dive into betrayal, guilt, and the desperate struggle to reclaim your truth when someone you die for paints you as the villain. From the gut punch of her accusation to a twist that flipped everything I thought I knew upside down, I'm laying it all bare. Stick with me through this long, emotional roller coaster because I'm still trying to figure out if I can mend what's broken or if some wounds are just too deep to heal. I need your help to decide. How do you rebuild a bond with someone who's hurt you this badly? Or do you even try? Let's unpack the chaos of my life together and see if we can find some clarity. My name's Harper, and I'm 29 years old, living in the quiet, artsy town of Santa Fe, New Mexico, where the desert sun paints the adobe buildings in shades of gold, and the air always carries a hint of sage and dust. I've been here for the past 4 years, renting a small casita on the edge of the historic district, just off Canyon Road, where galleries and cafes buzz with tourists and local artists. Santa Fe is a place of beauty and solitude, with its sprawling vistas of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains and the hum of creativity in every corner. But for me, it's also an escape, a sanctuary I ran to after the fallout with my sister tore apart everything I knew back in Albuquerque, about an hour south. That's where my family, my sister Lauren, her now ex-husband Mark, and our parents, still lives, in a modest suburban neighborhood near the Rio Grande, a place filled with memories of backyard barbecues and late-night heart-to-hearts that now feel like they belong to someone else's life. Lauren, who's 34, was always the golden child, the responsible one with the perfect life. Married at 25, a cozy house, a steady job as a school counselor. While I was the free spirit, the younger sibling bouncing between odd jobs and art projects, never quite settling down. She's got this sharp, no-nonsense way about her, with dark hair always pulled back tight, and a smile that used to light up a room, but turned cold when things went south. The emotional conflict eating at me isn't just about being blamed for something I didn't do. It's the soul-crushing pain of losing my sister, my best friend, to a lie that made me question my own worth and left me drowning in anger and heartbreak. About 2 years ago, Lauren's marriage started unraveling. Mark moved out after months of arguments, and she was left reeling, trying to pick up the pieces of a life she thought was unbreakable. Then, out of nowhere, she turned on me, accusing me of meddling, saying I'd told Mark things about her past, personal, painful stuff I'd never dream of sharing, that made him see her differently and ultimately leave. I was floored. I hadn't even spoken to Mark in months, let alone spilled any secrets, but she wouldn't hear it. She said I'd always been jealous of her perfect life, that I wanted to sabotage her happiness because I couldn't find my own. Every word felt like a knife, twisting deeper because I'd spent my whole life looking up to her, confiding in her, thinking she knew me better than anyone. The betrayal wasn't just in the accusation. It was in how quickly she believed the worst of me, how she let her pain rewrite our entire history. I was left feeling like I'd lost not just her trust, but the one person who was supposed to be my rock, and I couldn't stop wondering if I'd somehow failed her without even realizing it. Memories of our bond before this mess haunt me on quiet evenings when I'm sitting on my casita's tiny patio, watching the sun dip below the mountains, the sky turning fiery orange over Santa Fe's rugged landscape. I think back to growing up in Albuquerque, to long summer days riding bikes along the Paseo del Bosque trail by the river, Lauren leading the way, always daring me to keep up as we laughed until our sides hurt. I remember the night after my high school graduation, when she snuck me out to a diner on Central Avenue for milkshakes, telling me she was proud of me even if I didn't have a plan like she did, her words a warm blanket against my insecurities. I can still picture her wedding day, me as her maid of honor in a dusty pink dress, feeling like I was part of something magical as she and Mark danced under string lights in our parents' backyard. Back then, I thought nothing could break us, that we'd always be each other's safe place, no matter what life threw at us. Now, walking through Santa Fe's plaza, the chatter of street vendors and strum of mariachi music fading into the background, I ache for those days, wondering if I missed the cracks forming in her life, or in us, long before her marriage fell apart. The struggle to keep my head above water after her accusation was a brutal, lonely fight, one that tested every bit of my strength as I tried to rebuild myself in Santa Fe, far from the family I'd once leaned on. When Lauren first blamed me, I was still in Albuquerque, living in a cramped apartment near Uptown, working part-time at a coffee shop while freelancing as a graphic designer for local businesses. Her words hit me during a tense family dinner at our parents' house, the smell of Mom's green chili enchiladas still lingering as she unloaded her anger, her voice low but venomous, while our parents sat in stunned silence. I left that night, my hands shaking as I drove home, feeling like I'd been branded a traitor without a chance to defend myself. I tried reaching out over the next few weeks, texts, calls, even a long letter explaining I'd never betray her, but she shut me out, either ignoring me or sending curt replies that I was making it worse. The rejection stung worse than the accusation, and I knew I couldn't stay in Albuquerque, surrounded by reminders of her and the life we'd shared. So, I packed up, took a leap, and moved to Santa Fe, drawn by its reputation as a haven for artists and misfits, hoping the distance would dull the pain. I found a cheap place through a friend, started over with odd design gigs, and spent long hours wandering the desert trails near Atalaya Mountain, trying to outwalk the guilt and anger that clung to me like dust. The breaking point came about 6 months after I moved, on a chilly November evening, when the weight of her silence and the lie she'd built around me pushed me to a place I didn't think I'd ever reach. I'd been trying to focus on my new life, building a small client base for my design work, sketching in cafes like Iconic on Lena Street, even joining a local art collective to feel some sense of community, but the ache of losing Lauren never faded. That night, I was alone in my casita, the wind howling outside as a rare snow dusted the ground, scrolling through old photos on my phone. Us at the balloon fiesta as kids, grinning in front of a hot air balloon shaped like a cartoon dog. I broke down, sobbing into the quiet, feeling like I'd lost a limb, like I'd never be whole without her, even if she was the one who'd hurt me. I wanted to drive back to Albuquerque right then, bang on her door, and demand she take it back, but I knew it wouldn't fix anything. Instead, I sat there until dawn, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the snow-covered junipers outside, realizing I had to let go of hoping she'd come around on her own. I started journaling that night, scribbling my hurt and confusion onto pages I hid under my bed, a small act of release that kept me from completely unraveling. Santa Fe's stark beauty, the way the light hits the adobe walls, the silence of the desert, became my anchor, but I couldn't shake the feeling I was running from a fight I needed to face. The unexpected twist came a year later, and it turned my understanding of everything upside down, leaving me reeling with a mix of relief and fresh pain as I sat on a bench in the rail yard district, the hum of a nearby farmer's market barely registering. I'd been keeping my distance from Lauren, focusing on my life in Santa Fe. My design work was picking up, and I'd even started dating a kind, quiet guy named Eli, a potter I met at a gallery opening. I hadn't heard from Lauren in months, aside from a stiff, happy birthday text, when I got a call from our mom, her voice hesitant but urgent. She told me Lauren had finally opened up about what really happened with Mark, that he'd been the one to fabricate the story about me meddling, claiming I'd spilled secrets as a way to deflect blame for his own affair, which Lauren had only recently discovered. Lauren had believed him at first, too hurt and blindsided to question it, and her anger at me was fueled by his lies and her own shame for not seeing the truth sooner. Mom said Lauren was devastated, not just by the divorce, but by how she'd pushed me away, and she didn't know how to face me after everything she'd said. Hearing this, I felt a storm of emotions, vindication that I wasn't the villain, fury at Mark for dragging me into his mess, and a deep, aching sadness for Lauren, who'd been manipulated just as much as I'd been hurt. I thanked Mom, hung up, and sat there by the old train tracks, watching a street artist paint a mural, wondering if this truth changed anything or if the damage was already done. In the months that followed, I tried to process this new reality, building my life in Santa Fe while wrestling with the unresolved pain of Lauren's actions, as the town's eclectic charm became both a comfort and a reminder of how far I'd drifted from family. My design career was growing. I landed a contract with a local boutique to rebrand their entire line, spending late nights at my desk with the window open, the cool desert air mixing with the scent of pinyon wood from a neighbor's fire. I'd walk through the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum on off days, her stark paintings of the desert mirroring my own sense of isolation and resilience, wondering if I could ever paint over the hurt between me and Lauren. Eli was a steady presence, his quiet support grounding me as we'd hike in the foothills near Tessouk, the crunch of gravel underfoot a distraction from my thoughts. But even he couldn't fill the void of family. Lauren sent a tentative email a few weeks after Mom's call, apologizing vaguely and saying she needed time before talking more, but I didn't reply. unsure if I could handle the weight of her regret on top of my own. Santa Fe's festivals, like the burning of Zozabra, where the town torches a giant effigy to release worries, felt symbolic, but I couldn't burn away the ache of what we'd lost. Not yet. Reflecting on my past with Lauren became a near-daily ritual as I tried to make sense of where we stood now, especially on long drives through the high desert, the endless horizon a canvas for my churning memories. I'd think about the time she helped me through my first heartbreak at 16, sitting on her bed in Albuquerque, passing me tissues and promising I'd find someone better, her fierce protectiveness a shield I'd relied on. I remembered her quiet strength when our grandpa passed, how she held the family together while I fell apart, organizing the memorial while I hid in my room, overwhelmed. I'd recall the small fights, too, her frustration when I'd flake on family plans to chase some art project, the way she'd roll her eyes at my hippie dreams, but always with a smirk that said she loved me anyway. Driving past the red rock formations near Ghost Ranch, the landscape raw and ancient, I'd wrestle with whether I'd been too quick to pull away after her accusation, if I should have fought harder to stay close even when she pushed me out. I thought about the last time I saw her, at that disastrous dinner, her face twisted with anger I didn't recognize, and wondered if she'd felt as lost as I did, just hiding it behind blame. As time passed, bringing Santa Fe's blazing summers and crisp winters, I built a fragile new normal, though the unresolved rift with Lauren lingered like a shadow over the desert I couldn't outrun. My career was taking off, more clients, a small online following for my design work, even a dream of opening a studio someday. But I'd come home to my quiet casita, the silence heavier than the mountain air. I started connecting with more locals, joining art walks on Canyon Road, their encouragement a balm to old wounds. But even their warmth couldn't replace the sister I'd lost. I'd explore hidden spots like the Bandelier National Monument on weekends, the ancient cliff dwellings a quiet space to think, wondering if I'd ever feel at peace with how things ended. I bought a cheap camera, snapping photos of the desert's stark beauty, cacti silhouetted against violet skies, adobe ruins crumbling into sand, a small act of reclaiming the creativity Lauren once teased me for. But each shot felt like a question. Was I building this life for me, or to prove I could survive without her? I'd scroll through old texts from her on my phone, silly memes, reminders to call mom, and feel this pull to respond to her email, to see if she'd changed, but fear of more hurt held me back. The grind of chasing my dreams while carrying this emotional baggage felt like climbing a mesa with no summit in sight, each step forward weighed down by a past I couldn't fully leave behind. I'd spend long nights on design projects, the glow of my laptop casting shadows in my tiny home, pushing myself to meet deadlines while fighting exhaustion and the nagging doubt that I'd never be enough without family to share it with. I started taking on bigger gigs, redesigning a website for a Santa Fe gallery, creating posters for the annual fiesta. Each small win a brick in the wall of my new life, but I'd still lie awake, the howl of coyotes outside, wondering if Lauren ever thought about me, if she regretted the lie as much as I resented the pain. I volunteered at a community art program, teaching teens to use design software at a center near the plaza, hoping to find meaning in giving back, but even that felt like a distraction from the real issue. I'd drive out to Abiquiu on quiet days, watching the sun glint off Lake Abiquiu, asking myself if healing meant reaching out or if there was a way to move on without reopening old wounds. Santa Fe had become my refuge, with its vibrant markets and endless skies, but I wasn't sure if I could keep hiding from Albuquerque's ghosts without facing them head-on. The weight of judgment, both Lauren's and my own, didn't fade easily. Even as I carved out this new path, each memory of her harsh words a reminder of how long I'd felt unworthy. I'd run into old Albuquerque friends sometimes, folks visiting Santa Fe for art shows, their casual "how's Lauren?" questions reopening old scars, even if I knew they meant no harm. I started avoiding certain social spots, like a popular taqueria near the rail yard, where I'd risk those awkward encounters, opting instead for solitary hikes in the Pecos wilderness, where the pine trails let me breathe without feeling exposed. I'd sit by a stream there, watching the water carve through stone, and wonder if I'd ever shake the label of the sister who ruined everything, or if Lauren's initial blame had stuck for good in her mind. I even considered moving again, maybe to Taos or Denver, somewhere no one knew my story, but the thought of running felt like admitting defeat, like I couldn't build a life strong enough to withstand the past. Santa Fe had become my home, with its cultural heartbeat and sweeping desert, and I wanted to believe I could stand my ground here, even if it meant carrying the weight of what I'd left behind. Now, as I sit here in my casita, the soft glow of a lantern illuminating my latest design sketch, the faint sound of a distant drum circle echoing from a nearby Pueblo event, I'm still wrestling with what to do next. I've built something real in Santa Fe. My career is growing. I've got Eli's quiet support, and I've found a kind of peace in the desert's vastness that I never had in Albuquerque. But knowing the truth about Mark's lie, knowing Lauren was a victim of his manipulation just as much as I was of her anger, has me questioning if I've been too stubborn, if I should have responded to her email and started the slow work of rebuilding before more time slipped away. I hate the thought of her struggling alone, maybe thinking I've written her off for good, carrying her own guilt while I carry mine, but I can't ignore the months of pain. The way her words made me doubt myself in ways I'm still unlearning. I've got a big project coming up, a full rebrand for a local nonprofit, a chance to really make my mark. And I keep wondering if I should tell her about it, if sharing my success might open a door between us, or if it'll just stir up more unresolved hurt. My laptop's right here, her email's still unread in my inbox, but I don't know if I'm ready to type a reply, to risk being hurt again, or to admit I've missed her more than I can put into words. So, I'm turning to you guys, because I'm at a crossroads and I could really use some perspective. If you were in my shoes, would you reach out to your sister, respond to her apology, try to rebuild that bond even if it means risking more pain? Or would you keep your distance, focus on the life you've built, and let her make the next move if she's truly ready to mend things? How do you balance the pull of family with the need to protect your own heart, especially when the hurt came from a place of misunderstanding, not malice? I want to believe there's a way to have both, my independence and some kind of connection with her, but I'm not sure how to get there without losing the ground I've gained. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I'm honestly torn, and I'd love to know what you'd do if you were standing where I am right now, wondering if healing means letting go of the past or finding a way to rebuild it together.